All right, so are you ready to dive into a King Crimson track that just might surprise you?
Oh, yeah, hit me.
We're going deep on Sleepless from their 1984 album.
Okay.
And I know what you're thinking, King Crimson, those prog rock whizzes.
Uh,
But hold on, this one's got a twist.
yeah, Sleepless is really interesting in how it steps outside their usual complex and experimental sound.
Yeah.
There's a taste of funk, a touch of dance,
Okay.
even some new wave and post-punk influences in there.
Wow.
It's quite a departure.
It definitely is. The infectious groove of this song is something you just don't often hear from King Crimson.
Right.
And it all starts with Tony Levin's bass line.
Uh-huh.
That Chapman stick, combined with his slapping technique, creates this pulsating, rubbery rhythm that just pulls you in.
It's like the heartbeat of the song driving everything forward.
Yeah.
And when you combine that with Bill Bruford's drumming,
Oh, yeah.
it creates a truly unique soundscape.
Yeah, the article I shared mentioned Bruford's use of polyrhythms,
Mm.
which, to be honest, always sounds a bit intimidating to me.
Sure.
But the way they describe it as creating this jittery, nocturnal atmosphere
Yeah.
totally makes sense.
Well, think about it this way. Polyrhythms are like multiple rhythms happening at the same time.
Okay.
So you've got this constant push and pull, this feeling of unease and tension that perfectly captures the feeling of being sleepless.
Wow.
And then Bruford layers in these incredibly intricate hi-hat patterns that add to that nervous energy.
It makes you feel like you're right there in the middle of someone's restless night.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they translate that feeling into sound.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got this driving bass line and complex drumming.
Right.
What about Fripp? What's he doing on guitar?
Ah, Robert Fripp.
Yeah,
Always the master of sonic texture.
he is.
In Sleepless, he creates this amazing contrast to the rhythm section.
Okay.
You have these sustained, almost mournful notes alongside sharp, angular riffs.
Interesting.
It's classic Fripp.
Yeah.
Building tension and unease against the hypnotic groove.
So even though it's got those danceable elements,
Right.
there's still that edge that King Crimson is known for.
Absolutely. And then you bring in Adrian Belew's vocals.
Oh, yeah.
His delivery adds another layer of complexity. There's this sense of insomnia, uncertainty, almost a dreamlike paranoia in his voice.
Wow.
It's not just a rhythmic experiment. There's real emotional depth to it.
I'm glad you brought up the vocals because the new music video for Sleepless
Yeah.
really focuses on that.
Oh, cool.
The way the article describes it, you get stark lighting, rapid edits,
Okay.
abstract imagery,
Yeah,
and these intense close-ups on Tony Levin's hands as he plays.
I see.
Sounds pretty intense.
It is,
Yeah.
and it really adds another dimension to the whole experience.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes music videos can feel like an afterthought, but here the visuals are almost like watching someone's insomnia play out on the screen.
So it's not just illustrating the music.
Right.
It's like a visual interpretation of the whole feeling of Sleepless.
Exactly.
Why?
And that's what's so brilliant about it.
Yeah.
They use the visuals to amplify that feeling of restlessness and edgy energy that runs throughout the song.
It sounds like they're using every tool at their disposal to really pull you into the world of Sleepless,
Yeah.
both sonically and visually.
And you know what's fascinating?
What's that?
Sleepless actually reached number 51 on the Billboard mainstream rock chart back in '84.
Really? That's pretty impressive for a band like King Crimson.
It is.
Yeah.
It shows that they managed to create something that was both challenging and engaging for a wider audience.
Right.
There's a real groove to the song that pulls you in, even if you're not a diehard prog rock fan.
For sure.
And I think that's one of the reasons why it continues to resonate with listeners today.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it about Sleepless that still feels relevant all these years later?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one we should definitely delve into.
I agree.
But first, let's talk about the visual aspects of Sleepless a bit more.
Okay.
What are your initial thoughts about how those rapid edits and abstract images might connect to those themes of insomnia and uncertainty that we were talking about earlier?
Well, when I think about insomnia, I think about racing thoughts,
Uh-huh.
fragmented images,
Yeah.
and a sense of disorientation.
Okay.
And it sounds like the video is using those visual techniques to actually put you inside that experience.
That's a great observation.
Thanks.
And it gets even more interesting when you consider the historical context. You know, think about the early 80s.
Oh, yeah.
It was a time of rapid technological change,
Uh-huh.
social upheaval,
Yeah.
and a lot of uncertainty about the future.
You're right. And when you put it that way, it makes sense that those anxieties would find their way into the music of that era.
Exactly. And King Crimson being the forward-thinking band they are, we're tapping into those feelings. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Even though those themes were specific to that time period, they still resonate with us today.
It's like they captured something universal about the human experience.
Right.
We might not be dealing with the exact same anxieties as people in the 80s, but those feelings of restlessness and uncertainty are timeless.
Precisely. Think about it.
Yeah.
How often do you feel overwhelmed by information?
All the time.
By the constant barrage of news and social media?
Oh, yeah.
How often do you find it hard to switch off to truly relax?
All the time. I think most of us can relate to that feeling of being wired but tired, as you said earlier.
And that's what's so brilliant about Sleepless. It creates this sonic landscape that mirrors that experience.
Right.
It's like the music itself is embodying that feeling of insomnia, of being trapped in a cycle of anxious thoughts and restless energy.
It's interesting how they use the different musical elements to achieve that. We talked about 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗡𝗞𝗔 drumming and 𝗕𝗕𝗕 guitar, but what about Levin's bass line?
Yeah.
How does that contribute to the overall feeling of the song?
Well, that bass line is the anchor, the driving force that propels everything forward. But it's not just a simple repetitive groove.
Right.
Levin uses these subtle shifts and variations in his playing that keep you on edge.
It's like he's mimicking that feeling of your mind racing, never quite settling down.
Exactly. And then you have blues vocals, which are almost a stream of consciousness. They're fragmented, disjointed, and full of these strange images and unsettling ideas.
It all adds up to this feeling of being caught in a kind of waking dream where logic and reason have been suspended.
And that's where the video comes in and takes things to a whole new level.
Okay.
Those rapid edits, the flashing lights, the abstract imagery,
Yeah.
they all work together to create a visual representation of that dreamlike state.
It's like the video is actually showing you what it feels like to be inside someone's mind as they struggle with insomnia.
And it's not just about the visuals themselves, it's about the way they're edited together.
Okay.
You never quite get a chance to settle into any one image or idea before it cuts to something else.
It keeps you off balance, disoriented, just like the music itself.
Exactly. And that's what makes Sleepless such a unique and compelling experience.
Wow.
It's this perfect marriage of sound and vision where each element reinforces the other.
It's like they're creating a multi-sensory experience that truly immerses you in the world of the song.
And it's a world that's both fascinating and a little bit unsettling, which is what makes it so intriguing.
You know, it's funny because when you think about it, Sleepless is a pretty unconventional song to make a music video for.
You're right. It's not exactly a typical pop song with a catchy chorus and a danceable beat.
But maybe that's why it works so well.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to experiment, to push the boundaries of what a music video can be.
And the result is something that's truly unique and memorable. It's a video that stays with you long after you've seen it.
Speaking of memorable, one thing that really stuck with me from our conversation earlier was how you connected Sleepless to the anxieties of the early 80s. It made me realize that even though the song was written decades ago, it still feels incredibly relevant today.
It does, doesn't it? I think it speaks to the fact that certain human emotions and experiences are timeless.
But I also think it says something about King Crimson as a band.
Oh, absolutely. They were always ahead of their time, always pushing boundaries and exploring new sonic territories.
And it's fascinating how they managed to create something that was both experimental and accessible. Sleepless is a great example of that.
It is. They never dumbed down their music, but they also weren't afraid to incorporate elements from other genres to create something that was both challenging and engaging.
And I think that's why Sleepless continues to resonate with listeners today.
Yeah.
Even those who might not be diehard King Crimson fans.
It's a song that has something to offer everyone.
Right.
It's got that driving groove, those intricate rhythms, those haunting vocals. And now with the new music video, it has this stunning visual component as well.
It's like they've created a complete artistic package, a world that you can fully immerse yourself in.
And what's great about it is that it's open to interpretation. You can experience Sleepless on multiple levels. You can just enjoy the music and visuals, or you can delve deeper and explore those themes of insomnia, anxiety, and the search for meaning in a chaotic world.
It's all there for you to discover. But speaking of discovering, one thing I'm curious about is how you first experienced Sleepless.
Sure.
Did you come to it through the music first, or did you see the video first?
You know, it's funny you should ask that, because my first encounter with Sleepless was actually through a live performance.
Oh, wow.
I remember being completely captivated by the energy of the song,
Yeah.
the way the band interacted on stage. It was like this incredible, almost telepathic connection between them.
Wow. That must have been an amazing experience.
Yeah.
There's something about seeing a band like King Crimson live that just takes the music to a whole other level.
It does the energy, the improvisation, the sheer power of their performance.
Right.
It's something you really have to experience firsthand to fully appreciate.
I can only imagine. So when you finally saw the music video,
Yeah.
did it change your perception of the song at all?
It didn't so much change my perception as enhance it.
Okay.
It was like the video gave me a new way to visualize the music, to see those themes of insomnia and uncertainty playing out in a visual form.
It's like they created a visual counterpart to the music.
Right.
A world that you could literally step into.
Exactly. And it's a world that's both familiar and strange, which is part of its appeal. It's like looking into a distorted mirror, seeing yourself reflected back in a way that's both recognizable and unsettling.
And I think that's what makes Sleepless such a powerful and enduring piece of art.
Yeah.
It taps into something deep within us, something that we might not even be fully aware of.
It's like it holds up a mirror to our own anxieties and uncertainties, forcing us to confront those feelings that we often try to push down.
And maybe that's why it continues to resonate with listeners today, even those who might not be familiar with King Crimson's music. It speaks to something universal about the human experience.
I think you're right. It's a song that transcends genre and time. It's a song that speaks to the heart of what it means to be alive in a world that's constantly changing and challenging us.
And what's so great about it is that it does all of that without being preachy or didactic.
Right.
It's not telling you what to think or feel. It's simply inviting you to experience the music and the visuals and to draw your own conclusions.
And that's what makes it such a rewarding experience. It's a song that you can revisit time and time again, and each time you'll discover something new.
So for you, our listener, what new discoveries have you made through this deep dive?
Have you gained a deeper appreciation for the complexities of Sleepless, both musically and visually?
Perhaps it's even prompted you to reflect on your own experiences with insomnia anxiety or the feeling of being overwhelmed by the modern world.
Whatever your takeaways, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore King Crimson's music further.
Because as we've discovered, their music is full of surprises,
Challenges,
and ultimately profound rewards.
Until next time, keep exploring.
And keep listening.